Do part 4 of the Hampstead child abuse inquiry research. You can go and verify and corroborate all this information, see it's true. This is just a little bit of research in relation to the Christchurch school, and it shows an article from the 1st of December 2023. Remember, the Hampstead child abuse inquiry started in 2014. I think there was rumblings of it still going on around 2022 for some reason. But here's an article saying that this school, and here's the head teacher of the school, Katie Forsyth. Hampstead child has scored top marks from inspectors who branded excellent in every way. Celebrations were at Christchurch Primary School this week after Ofsted said it was outstanding in all areas. After a 2-day visit earlier this the inspectors said, pupil behaviour was impeccable. The thinking behind the curriculum is profound, and that every child, including those with additional needs, gets the very best possible education. My goodness. Well, you know what I'm thinking. Katie Forsyth, the school's head teacher, said, while we are absolutely delighted with the outcome, we don't do what we want to do to secure an Ofsted judgment. Children in our school do thousands of brilliant things every day, and it is their enthusiasm and love of learning which keeps us all motivated and keen to provide more and to do things better. It was the first time that school had been inspected since 2009, and under Ofsted's tough new guidelines, many previous top-rated schools have dropped to the lower rung. Oliver Chesser, already mentioned earlier, chair of the governors at the school, added the comments in this report are superb, but they are a milestone on a much broader journey rather than a final outcome. So Ofsted, what do? Well, they're the Office of Standards in Education, Children's Services and Skills. It's a non-ministerial department of His Majesty's Government, reporting to Parliament. Ofsted's role is to make sure that organisations providing education, training and childcare services in England do so to a high standard for children and students. Ofsted is responsible for inspecting a range of educational institutions, including state schools and some independent schools. It also inspects childcare, adoption, fostering agencies and initial teacher training. In 1833, Parliament agreed an annual grant to the National Society for... in fact, I won't read all of this, you can read it yourself, but it just shows a little bit the research surrounding Ofsted. And this bit in the middle I think is quite important. In September 2001, the same month as the World Trade Center disaster, Her Majesty's Chief Inspector of Schools in England became responsible for registration and inspection of a daycare and childminding in England, and the position was renamed HM, Chief Inspector of Education, Children's Services and Skills. Previously this was done by 150 local authorities based on their implementation in 1992 of the Daycare Standards provision of the 1989 Children's Act. It was changed in 2006. Schedule 11 of the Educational Inspectors Act 2006 changed the way in which Ofsted works without significantly changing the provision. And this was the same year, remember, 2006, that Tony Blair came in and made proposals that they should intervene earlier, even before children are even born, to intervene in families and consider whether that child may need extra work, which could have, lead to the removal of that child from that family. If you look at my Silent Weapons of Quiet Wars document, that was clearly, according to that document, a plan a long time ago to remove children, separate families, part of the bigger plan. Just reading through this. His Majesty's Chief Inspector of Education, Children's Services and Skills, sometimes abbreviated to CMCI, is the head of Ofsted. Martin Oliver was appointed His Majesty's Chief Inspector of Education, Children's Services and Skills from January the 2nd, 2024. Interesting. Not long after that school attained a very high praise indeed. I think it was September. It was December, 1st of December, and then we have a change to the new head very, very soon afterwards, a month later. The title of His Majesty's Chief Inspector of Schools, HMCI, was created at the same time as the Office for Standards in Education. Ofsted itself, before Ofsted was set up in 1992, the person headed its forerunner Heading its forerunner, HM Inspectorates of Schools was known as the Senior Chief Inspector. And at the bottom here, you can see confirmed a list. Martin Oliver was appointed in January 2024. And at the bottom here, you can see that Christine Ryan is the chair of Ofsted. Okay, the chair of Ofsted from 2020 to the present time. So let's have a look at Martin Oliver. Presuming this is Martin. Martin, if it's not, please let me know if somebody else has entered this record for you. It appears to be you. Let's have a look at your company's house record. So you've got Outwood Grange Academies Trust as one of the companies. If you go into that, this person, so we're now looking at this person's record. They were appointed in January 2022. And the British Olympic Foundation is in there. Interesting. Back into the person record, and we've now got Christopher John Dalzell. And they link to Liberty GB London Limited. Remember, the National Council for Civil Liberties was headed with Harriet Harman under the heading of Liberty, with various other Liberty companies. Okay, at the time, National Council for Civil Liberties, and this connects to the World Trade Center building via Larry Silverstein Real Estates to a company whose documents name has been removed. Westco Nominees. I urge you all to go and look at Westco Nominees on Companies House. You will see that the company name has been completely removed from its incorporation document. I suspect that was to avoid people identifying the link to the apparent child abuse network and the consideration to reduce the age of sexual consent to 10 in the UK, and the World Trade Center disaster, and the fraud and how it all associates together. Very significant. But here we are, we have a Liberty company already. Here's Liberty GB, and it dissolved in 2011. And you can see it was called Top Strand Limited in 1999, September 1999, until October, and then it changed its name on the 27th of October 1999, and then again in 2004. But it didn't change its name again until it closed. It closed in 2011. Interesting timing, isn't it? I'll let you draw your own conclusions on that. This is the incorporation document, and you can see Swift Incorporations Limited and Jordan's Limited, same as my company. Jordan's a legal entity company. Back into Outward, that company that we're looking at, and this person links to Ingenious Film Partners. Okay, now if you look at the Rishi Sunak document and the Directed Energy Weapons document and research, you will see that this company, which is not a incorporation company, it's a film company. Okay, remember there's child trafficking throughout. This company features several times. You can see it had a previous company name at the bottom of Ingenious Film Partners 1 LLP. So all you can see they've just removed the 1. So you've got Ingenious Film Partners LLP that it's trading as now, and you can see at the bottom of active company, it used to just have the 1 in it. So they've removed the 1. That removes the accountability and changed its name. Going back to the other person, we've got a school. Okay, Queen's Mary's School, Baldersby Limited. Is there a reason I put that in there? Not too sure. It's a school, I think that's the only reason I put that. Back into Outward, this person then goes through to Outward Grange Consultancy Company Limited, so a slightly different company name, dissolved. And if we look into the overview of that company, we can see, first of all, the addresses feature throughout. So all of these addresses I've seen frequently before. OYE's company services. And now this company was used, all of these addresses I've used right throughout the fraud. You've got C&M Registrars Limited, OYE's, C&M Registrars, on the incorporation. Here you go, you can see that OYE's was linked to the health research for the fraud. So there's fraud through that. And also OYS links to, there's various other companies, but I've just put the Charles Darwin Trust as well. Now, Charles Darwin is, I believe that was part of the silent weapons of silent wars. You can see that the whole point was to break down communities' faith in anything other than them. So they did all that they could, it appeared, to try and get people to turn towards the elites for answers to everything. Do go and look at that document. I can't tell you enough how important that document is, the silent weapons for silent wars. It appears to be authentic. I didn't obviously produce it. It was sent to me by at least one or two people. They're saying it was authentic. Can't verify that, but it does tie in with all of the other evidence that I'm looking at, which you can corroborate and verify. And you can see OYS links to Lester Aldridge. We've already mentioned Lester Aldridge, and also BCP Council. So you can see on the BCP Council document that all links in. Back into Outward. Person record here links to Synergy Housing Solutions. They were incorporated in February 2002, 5 months after the World Trade Center disaster, and changed their name on the 27th of September 2005. And they are incorporated with York Place Company Services. And you've got York Place Company Services, York Place Company Secretaries Limited. Previous research, York Place links to BAE Systems. Back into Outward. Sir Michael Wilkins of SSS Realizations 2012 in liquidation at the top there. Look at the address at the bottom. That's featured throughout the fraud. See care of BDO. That company features throughout 5 Temple Square. You can see all the company names. It had a school name, see? And you've got the school names here. Changed various times. You can see you've got special at the bottom there. Specialist Schools Trust. Specialist Schools and Academies Trust. Now let's look at the other person. Okay, so we've got connections through the fraud. So that person, we're now looking at the other, I believe the CEO, is the CEO or chairman, I can't remember, of the current one of Ofsted. And here it is. Since 2020, she has been chair of the Office for Standards in Education, Children's Services and Skills. Having worked as a teacher between 1976 and 1993, she was an Ofsted inspector from 1993 to 2009. Chief Inspector and CEO is the Independent Schools Inspectorate from 2005 to 2017. Looking into her LinkedIn. You can see here in the middle, she was the part of Ryan and Grunzel, and she still is according to this. So from 2017 until present, Ryan and Grunzel. See there, from 2005 to 2017, yeah, she was the Independent Schools Inspectorate, ISI. Let's look at Ryan and Grunzel Limited. And going on to the incorporation document for Ryan's and Grunzel, we can see that Christine is there. It's all public information. There's nothing wrong with me showing this. And we've got Duport Associates Limited on the incorporation document. Duport links in with research surrounding Brighton. And Brighton links to Connor Burns again, the MP for, one of the MPs for Dorset. Also links to Nicola Bulley research and SCF. And it also links to Sevenside, Stanley Davis, and Bournemouth Court research around the legal system, which you'll see. I've done a video about my court process. It's all fraudulent. They're not producing lawful documents at all. It's an illegal court process, and even the judges for that you can go and see was linked to this criminal system of fraud. And we've got this person now within that company, and you've got School Compliance Partners Limited. School Compliance Partners Limited dissolved. And again, you've got Duport, which links to Nicola Bulley, etc. We've also got Headroom's Improvement, Partners Limited. I haven't even shown you all of it. I mean, there's so much more coming from this research. You could go into every company. You could have pages and pages of the fraud and the same addresses throughout linked to different companies. But you'll find, at some point, somebody I'm sure is around the world. Don't forget, other people are going to be doing loads on the back of my research. I'm already being told it. I'm being sent stuff. This is not going to go away. It's right around the world. People are verifying it, corroborating it, say, oh my goodness, this is the key to everything. They're right. It's the key to most of the problems. Now, this one's important. Sorry, just getting a bit deviated there. Headroom's Improvements Limited. We've already mentioned the National Council for Civil Liberties. The Liberty companies linked through to Companies Made Simple. If you go to Companies Made Simple, that is where you then research through the documents very quickly. You get to Westco nominees, and that is where the company name has been completely removed from that document. So that is fraud, and that must be to remove the connection to the World Trade Center and all of the other stuff. I've shown this name was on there because I think this name's cropped up before on the World Trade Center disaster document, and I've had to consider that this could be an alias for Douglas Dougie Smith's wife. It may or may not be, but I've put it on there just in case. He is the special advisor for the Prime Minister Rishi Sunak, and he's been at the side of the last few Prime Ministers for the UK. You can see he was also a former president of the Seychelles. It's an offshore island. It's a tax haven location, Seychelles. And Sir James Goldsmith was the president of the Seychelles. Funny enough, somebody else has mentioned Mr. Goldsmith, I believe, fairly recently, of relevance. Smith married Munira Mirza, a political advisor and longtime ally of Boris Johnson in 2008. They have a son, Robbie, born in 2013. If it's not you, Munira, I apologise. Please let me know if it's not you. Let's clear this up. Somebody, come and talk to me. Let's discuss this. Let's get this evidence out. Let's have a debate. I'm happy to explain all of this. Come on. Okay, so back into that person, Action for Me, Temple Street. Let's look at Action for Me and ICI Consultancy Limited. And a legal entity company, the London Law Agency. We've already mentioned them before, so we've got a legal entity company again, fraud. Now let's look at the, how long we got? It's 18 minutes in. We'll do another 10 minutes or so. So we're now looking at the judge. Remember Anna Pawley? Okay, so it's got her date of birth here, according, if that's real, of course. Was a judge of the High Court of England, Wales, until her retirement, 1st of October 2017. It's interesting, isn't it? So the child abuse inquiry started in 2014. She retired in 2017. Interesting. She was called to the bar in Middle Temple in 1979. In 2003, she was appointed a judge at the High Court Justice. She retired from the bench in October 2017. On the 11th of June, accommodating child abuse. On the 11th of June 2015, Pawley was highly criticised by ministers and child protection campaigners for stating it was okay for migrant families to hit children, suggesting that migrants could hit children because of so-called culture context. In response, a government spokesman stated that there should never be any exceptions regarding child abuse. Here's another article in relation to that. Judge's comments hurt efforts to protect all children from abuse. A High Court judge has ruled that social workers should make proper allowances for different cultural contexts while presiding over a case in which an Indian man was alleged to have beaten his wife and 7-year-old son, by concluding that social workers should make some form of allowance for child abuse in immigrant communities. Justice Anna Pawley has further clouded one of the most challenging and important ethical dilemmas faced by social workers in the UK. Across the UK, social workers are grappling with issues such as female genital mutilation, the sexual exploitation of children for money, witchcraft, emotional, physical, sexual abuse and neglect, All of this occurs with some cultural context, but it must never be justified on this basis. To suggest that social workers should apply different standards when working with immigrant communities or be more accepting of abusive parenting sticks a blade through the heart of social work values and evidence-based practice. Let's look at Anna Pawley. So there's no obvious, when you search Companies House record, there's no obvious immediate connection. But let's go through and look at some of these that do come up. So Pawley Limited, a dissolved company, dissolved in 2010. And you can see here the second company up, it was called Pawley. I'm never going to say that right. I do apologise, Anna, if I'm saying that wrong. Pawley and Company Limited. And it changed its name. You can see the last time it changed its name was in December 2001. 2 months after the World Trade Center disaster, or just over 2 months. And it hasn't, is it an active company? No, it dissolved in 2010, okay. But it didn't change its name again. Look at all these name changes. Didn't change its name again. It just dissolved later. That's the same screen. Going into that company, we've got Sally Bray. And now we've got Portland PR Europe Limited. Now that actually features, I don't know if I've shown it, but that same company comes up again in one of the other Pawley companies, but I'm not too sure if I've actually shown that. But that person also part of the Redwood Publishing Channel Islands Limited. Now remember, we've got the offshore island parliamentary group set up by Bob Seeley that links to Ghislaine Maxwell. That links through to the apparent abuse of children and murder of children on the Isle of Jersey. So let's look at Redwood. I'm not saying this company at all is involved in that. And none of these people I'm saying is directly involved in any fraud or criminal activity. None of them may have known what they was part of course. And I expect anyone who didn't know that, certainly, look what I'm doing. I had no idea, so I want to speak about it. I want to know what's going on. I want to know why I've been implicated in this unknowingly and try and resolve it all. It's interesting why nobody else does that's connected to it, isn't it? Very interesting. Especially people that should be, people that are trying to look at child abuse inquiries as well. Interesting that. Child abuse cases, sorry. So, so if we look Redwood Publishing, here we go. And it should be Redwood Publishing Channel Islands Limited on the incorporation document. But it's not. It's got Bella Rosa Limited. Okay, 1993 on the document as well. Let's just double check. 1993. Oh, I haven't got the other page actually. I think it's 93, but now that could be obviously because it's well, no, it shouldn't be. If the date matches, they've registered it here, and that date matches that, then I haven't got the screenshot anyway. But the name certainly doesn't match from that. Going into that same person, we've now got Omnicom Media Group. So Omnicom features in previous research in relation to David Cameron. We've already mentioned Alzheimer's on the other video. Here we go. This is the Alzheimer's connection because David Cameron was I believe the president of the Alzheimer's UK research company or something similar. Go and look at the Cameron research document. So here we go. Omnicom links them. Now we've got Omnicom also links the Silverstein. Remember, we've been talking about the World Trade Center disaster. And here we are. We now have a link to Silverstein Partners Europe Limited through Omnicom. And Omnicom Finance. We'll now look back into the person record. Omnicom Finance Limited, back into Sally. And I thought this was quite interesting. There's just a company in there saying Weapon 7 Limited. Read into that what you will. And on the incorporation document for Weapon 7 Limited, I found this interesting. The companies are All Tax Secretaries. All Tax. Okay, I found that quite interesting. Back in, we've got Paradigm Communications through to... which person was that? I'm not too sure. I must have missed the person. There's a person there, maybe one of the previous persons. Back into Pawley Limited, we've now got Nicholas Alexandra Glanville. And we've got a yacht club again. Let's go into the yacht club. Remember, yacht clubs feature throughout all of this. So you've got, not only can you see them throughout my research, Michelle Mone acquired a yacht, didn't she, through the PPE scandal? Remember that? Around the COVID time? That was all linked to this system of fraud. Remember, you had the yachts given to, according to research, to Zelensky. My company is linked to yachts companies. It would be. I doubt it is. They're illegal entity companies as well. But where the area where I am is, there's lots of yachts companies. It's where you've got Sunseeker, which also has an illegal entity company with a forged register against its incorporation document. This was an old company incorporated in 1935. Oh, wow. I'm sorry, I've got the same documents here. And you can see that WMYC, it's got a completely different company name. Okay, so this is a fraudulent company again. You can see it's completely different, even though it claims the dates is 1937. Well, you can see 1937 is between 1935 and 1994, but they're saying it had just that name the whole time, when clearly it didn't. So that is deceit, isn't it? Because here you go, that date is between it, and that's a completely different company name. And interestingly and importantly, you've got Waterloo and Sons on the bottom, and that features throughout the fraud. And Waterloo and Sons links to the De La Rue company, who is the currency producer and has a large Freemasonry connection to it. We've also got the same company, same person. We've got the Royal Burnham Yacht Club Limited, in brackets, Royal Burnham Yacht Club Limited, no other company name listed at the bottom, and of course it's an illegal entity company. So you can see there's no Royal before it at all, so they've added the Royal name. That's fraud. And same person, Product Plus International Limited. Here's Product Plus International Limited. And you've got Mazars. I don't think I've shown, but you'll know from the other research that features throughout. Links to the World Trade Center again. And they were dissolved in September 2023. A year after I started reporting the fraud, or thereabouts. Even though it was trading since 1983. Okay, so 40 years later, after I reported the fraud, it dissolves. This is the incorporation document, and you've got Stanley Davis Group. And the address here also, you have loads of different city road addresses, but that's one of them. Would be, but they chop and change the addresses. Back into Paulfley Limited, the people record, and we've got Reginald Paulfley. And here we've got another company now called Paulfley and Company Limited. Okay, so remember that was one of the names. This is what they do. So there was another this name had been given to the other Paulfley Limited. So they chop and change the names all the time to avoid accountability and liability. As soon as you change the name, you can't then hold that company accountable for anything. If you dissolve the company, you can't hold them accountable for anything, especially if they're using false details within there and there's fraud through the creations of the companies as well. It's just all about removing accountability and liability, but it's a criminal process to do it. Okay, that part of it isn't, but certainly the forgery of the register against the incorporation document and forging the actual incorporation documents themselves and using forged bank documents produced by the banks. Fraudulent crime. So they used to be called Web Intelligence Limited, the bottom there, from 2005 into 2014. And Waterloo. Okay, so we've got Waterloo again. Waterloo Legal and Company. Connect throughout the fraud. Winterbourne Arms. Not sure how I've got to that, but the address is the same there at the bottom. And we've got Vistra Kozek Limited on it. Vistra Limited. Remember, I told you, if you were to try and find Jordans Limited, you'll find them under a company that is now trading as Vistra Limited. Jordans Limited was one of its previous names, but when you look on the Incorporation Limited document, it's never been registered on the register for it, because it's under Hammerplag Limited. And you can see Vistra Kozak links to the World Trade Center building, and also through to King's Spalding. Now, Chris Wray, who is the head of the FBI, has an association for King's Spalding. If you look at research, he was acquiring money from that company somehow. Can't remember exactly how, but you can look at that and do your own research. But it links to Jordan's and also to the research that I've got for Gordon Brown. Now, when you search Paul Flea by itself, I believe, it comes up with these records. And we've got an Anthony Donald Pawley. Now that brings up Grange International. Interesting. Look at the address. Wimborne, Dorset. Remember, Wimborne, Dorset. That's where my company is in Dorset. And one of my the people in my company, I am led to believe, is in that area of Dorset. And when you go into the company, the address that comes up is an address that features throughout the fraud. So Grange International Limited, 40 Sultans Way, Sultans Marina, Lilliput, Poole, Dorset. On the incorporation document, you've got Bristol Legal Services Limited. Now, this is the same company, okay, that links to the Isle of Wight, where the child is that I was trying to help with the family who was concerned that the child was being injected, who had dilated eyes, and everybody around that child, people within the organisations, government organisations around them, all linked back in through the same companies that I'm researching into the what appears to be the child trafficking network. That included the judges, again, some of the social workers, the doctor, and this solicitor. Now, this solicitor was trying to get the family to sign a document to agree that they would no longer remove the clothes of the child to take photographs to show evidence of the injury to that child. Now, of course, you're going to want to show evidence of that child. This child was in care. If you're concerned they're abused, you want to obtain evidence to prove the bruising, don't you? To prove the abuse potentially happening to the child. This solicitor was trying to stop that. Okay. Now, remember, if you get to watch the interviews of the two children for this case, the Hampstead Child Abuse Inquiry, in the interview, they state that the babies, before they were murdered, were being injected by a nurse, I believe, injected before they were then murdered by the adults in this case. The same, remember, the injections on the child in the Isle of Wight, injections in this case, same solicitor, same solicitor's firm. And that's not the first. There's 3 times now that solicitor's firm has featured. That was from the Rishi Sunak research, from the child on the Isle of Wight research, and now it features again. Plus, we've got that same other company, the Ingenious Film Partners, features throughout as well. And on the document for it, we've got a yacht broker. That's on the incorporation document for the Grange International Limited. We also have a yacht broker. Back into Grange International Limited. In fact, we'll carry on the next video.